Oh
boy!
Oh, that was quick.
That was real quick.
No warning.
No.
Let's see how professional their intro is, Rob.
Welcome back to Trad, man. Everybody, how y'all doing?
Where's the music? You guys want me to play the music?
Man, I don't know how to do it. yeah. Play
Listen. This is our first live, so
I got a whole plethora of songs that I like to intro with. If you guys want.
How big is a plethora? That's a Three Amigos reference. If you don't know, but anyway,
you guys, all you make is Office references and things me and Rob never saw, so we'll just play along with it.
I saw the Three Amigos. Who are you guys?
I don't know.
You never saw the Three Amigos? So for those of you who are joining us, and hopefully, and you know what, so we've been kicking around the idea of doing this crossover episode for a long time, and we weren't sure whose channel we were going to do it on. And so finally, I made the really bad executive decision to do it on our channel, which only has 153 followers, versus doing it on y'all's channel, which actually has people to participate.
156, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's got a counter on his phone.
Yeah.
And so if you are joining us, please feel free to comment.
Let me tweet the link out again to make sure everybody gets in here because.
Yeah. And even though this is Tradman podcast, we have since we collaborated, we have a good collaboration title. Avoiding Tradmen in Babylon.
Yeah.
That's right.
And just like always, Rob, in his professional manner, invites his children to join the stream.
That's right.
The best part. They're better than me.
Biggie. What's up, Biggie?
What's up, guy?
Hi. Say hi.
Hi, Iggy. I freaking love that kid. I don't know how you don't eat him, bro.
I'll give you that.
I would bite his face if he was mine. I don't know how you don't. I kind of like the idea of not having to be the one in control tonight. So I'm just gonna fly by the seat of my pants and let you guys take the reins and see where it goes.
Let it ride.
I hope your audience isn't expecting like Bishop Schneider level.
No.
Well, even if Bishop Schneider were on, they'd criticize you for doing that too. Hey, is that Don? What's up, Don?
I see Don. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Mark, you want to go ahead for any listeners our listeners aren't familiar with Rob and Anthony?
Yeah, let's introduce.
Let's
introduce. So Rob and Anthony are brothers from another mother over at Avoiding Babylon. If you guys aren't subscribers to Avoiding Babylon, you need to be. It's a great channel. Got a lot of great and funny content. And they do a weekly show called So You Think You Know the Faith, and it's a Catholic trivia show where you guys, the audience, can participate and actually win some prizes.
Well, that's a stretch.
and if you win, Anthony will promise you a prize and then never give it to you.
Well, I was going to say winning is very subjective too.
So all right. So listen, here's the actual rules. If it's your first time playing and you win, you 100% get a prize.
Okay.
But after you've won a prize, if you return, even if you win the chat, if it's funny, I'll take it away. That's just the general rule. I have given one person a prize twice, but it's a very rare thing. We like to shower the new guests and get their hopes up as if it's going to be a regular thing for them. But we love to deny people if they've already won a prize. It works.
What did one of our reviewers call us? Drug dealers?
Yeah, they give you the first taste for free.
First hit's free. After that, we'll start charging. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to have a nice crossover event and shoot the bull a little bit about what's going on in society. And I think we were kicking around what to talk about tonight, and there really is nothing else we can talk about other than the general state that our society finds itself in, and how in the world did we get here, and what in the world is the way back. And what I mean by how in the world did we get here, I mean we've got a society where children are being taken to strip clubs, and that's seen as controversial and bold and all this other things. We've got a society in which teenagers will live stream themselves walking into an elementary school and offering elementary kids. And then the general takeaway from that is not how did we all get to be a nation of psychopaths? It's well, those guns are dangerous, huh? And it's like, that's your takeaway?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a bit of a
That's like-
strange world we live in.
That's like learning about the Rwandan genocide and being like, wow, machetes are kind of dangerous, huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, besides that, if you look at even what's going on, I mean, it is, Deadly Sin Month. And the other day, Fox News decided they were going to join in on the fun, and they put out a segment called Raising Ryland, where it was nothing made me more angry than seeing this segment, because they tried to play it off like this is the most normal suburban household where it's just a typical mom and dad, and the mom's a conservative religious person, and they just have this daughter who from 3 years old their daughter just didn't want to wear a dress. And the way they went through this filth, it was like you have to just think, in 10 years, this poor kid, first off, they're chemically castrating this poor girl, and she's never going to have a normal life whatsoever. And just the way they portrayed it was so enraging. And they tried to just play it off like we're all supposed to just swallow it, like it's just every other normal thing. They're trying to use the same propaganda they used for the gay marriage thing, for everything. They're trying to make it seem so normal, when if you really know the reality of the situation in the trans movement, it is anything but normal. It's psychotic. It's dangerous. It's, I don't know how.
Well, piggybacking off that, if you remember years ago, 10, 20 years ago, the natural end, or not the natural end, but the logical end to the homosexuality movement was the transgender movement, right? Because there's a logical natural end to all this, right? And now you have coming out, of course, they're starting to slowly or fast, however you want to look at it, this idea of pedophilia is an acceptable
that's the next
form,
phase.
right? So it's a logical end. But I remember being back in college, back in what was it? Probably about 2003, 2004. Just a quick.
It was 96. Stop pretending.
No, I graduated high school in 01. So, but I transferred into Texas A&M. And so I had the last choice of all my classes. So I needed a humanities course or whatever they called it. And I took the only option that was left was a sociology class called what was it called? The family life, or the family, or something about the family. And I remember thinking, this is going to be a fun semester because it's going to be so left wing bent. It's just going to be trashing the nuclear family, traditional family, right? Well, I get in there, and the professor walks in, and she looked like she was going to be out in left field. I mean, hair was everywhere and all that. And I'm just like, well, this is going to be a really fun semester. She got up there. She was extremely pro-family, against same-sex marriages, against abortion. I mean, she was very.
Where was this? Texas A&M?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So the point of the story is there was an argument between her and a couple of the girls in class one day. And she said, this is when homosexuality was really being pushed to be a mainstream way of living, right? And she mentioned something about, these things have a slope, a curve that they all end up on. She goes, not too long ago, homosexuality was looked at as a deviant behavior. Now it's slowly not being a deviant behavior. She said, what's next? Transgenderism, bestiality, pedophilia. She goes, where do we stop at? And I remember the girl, because the girl was actually right in front of me. She says, oh, you're being ridiculous. That's
everybody wants to play it off like that slippery slope thing is nothing, right?
You're just playing the slippery slope fallacy, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I look back on it now, that professor was spot on, because we got the transgenderism, we've got people thinking now they're doing trans species type nonsense.
The crazy thing is, all of this goes back to Humanae Vitae. All of it. Every single thing you're seeing now goes back to birth control. It's once you remove reproduction from the marital act and you allow it to be just for pleasure, you end up here inevitably, no matter what. Yeah. No matter what. Like, it doesn't matter how. I mean, I took the first 30 years were a slow chug, right? It went from like in the 60s up until the 2000s. Once Obama came out. Now, his first term, he came out in 08. He was against gay marriage. Like he came out. They were kind of talking about civil unions at the time, but
a lot of these politicians were, right, because it was politically expedient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll say whatever they think.
Of course, yeah. They don't have a single principle in mind, right?
They don't have a backbone, yeah.
But when you see how rapidly it went from the gay marriage thing to the transgenderism thing, I mean, it's insane. It went from 1990, and I'm stealing this from Tim Gordon because Tim Gordon actually brought this up. In 1996, you had a Seinfeld episode where they were talking about going. Something about something was gay, and they were both like, well, not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We went from that to gay marriage to this insanity we're seeing today so quickly. Like it took 50 years to get to gay marriage and then 3 years to get to the transgender movement. It was nuts how fast this went.
Yeah, and it seems like it's only getting faster, unfortunately.
See, to me, it's indicative of even a deeper problem though, which is it's the narcissism of everything. I mean, it would be one thing. Like I had a guy I knew in law school who lived an openly gay lifestyle, and while we were in law school, he got married, as he would say in his gay marriage. But he was kind of one of these guys. Look, if you want to come to my gay wedding, that's cool.
He wouldn't have been mad if you couldn't.
If you don't want to, or you feel that doesn't reflect your values, that's cool too. You know, you do you. I'm gonna do me. Now he's still in error. I want to be clear about that. I'm not. Yeah,
but he wasn't trying to force it down your throat.
But there's something about people who just like I also knew a girl who had boyfriends all through college and all through her postgraduate career, and then while she was in postgrad, the gay thing became cool. And now all of a sudden she's gay. Now she's never been in a gay relationship, but everything about she's got it's trend, and it's not only trendy, it's a way of making everything about me and every single thing about me. It's got to be about me, and you better reflect all the things I tell you, or you're, and there's something narcissistic about that. And
yeah, and that's the thing with not only this, but many sins, right? People demand that you accept their sin. And you think, why are you so hell-bent that I accept your sin? And it comes back to the affirmation. They know deep down that what they're doing is wrong.
Isn't that crazy though? Like if you think about it, like there's so many things we keep in the closet, right? Like, and I don't mean sexual stuff. I just mean like most of us want to hide our sin from others. You don't want to it's a weird thing that's happening now where people want to parade the deviancy in public and not just show it off, but demand it be held up as a good. It's like, woe to you that call good evil and evil good. Like people aren't just satisfied with it being something I do, but I don't want anybody to know about it. It's like, not only do I do it, it has to be front and center and everybody has to praise what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
I mean, think about it this way. If you knew someone who was suicidal.
Wait, you're putting Rob's Twitter handle up as if Rob didn't abandon us. Now, Rob, not only did he abandon us, I think I know where he is. I think he's on Catholic Comedy's channel, and he's doing another one of these little skits over there because he did this to me already, and he abandoned me. I don't know where this guy went. He just decides to take off on us. I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you knew someone who was suicidal, and you went to them and you said, look, I know life is hard. I know right now it seems like there's no hope. I know how you feel, but you got to hang on, bro. You got to hang on. How would you feel if instead somebody said, well, good for you. You don't let anybody tell you how to feel. You go right ahead and commit. God forbid anyone who would say something like that.
Didn't we have something like that? We had Catholic priests accompanying people that were doing assisted suicide in Canada.
That is a grotesque sin that I mean, it was almost, I thought about this example and it was even difficult to spit it out of my mouth. It's so awful.
Well, no, so there was an actual Catholic priest.
I'm sure.
There was a person who was going for youth. They were going to end whatever they call it, the compassionate care at the end of your life.
Euthanasia.
Yeah, it was euthanasia, but the priest actually accompanied this person in their suicide. And it's like, that's how off the wall it has gotten, even inside the church. You think about, like, I think somebody put up the other day, there was a quote by John Paul II saying how, like, if the church doesn't stand up against abortion, then the church will cease to be what it is, because it has to be that voice again. And it's like, where is the voice of the church right now through all of this? It's so crazy.
You brought up Humani Vitae. Have you read Evangelium Vitae by John Paul II? He made a list.
I couldn't recall it to mind.
He made a list of predictions. If we allow the culture of death to triumph, you will see that.
Oh yeah.
And at the time it came out, everybody rolled their eyes and did all that sort of thing. And go back and read it today.
People could say what they want about John Paul II. That man was a culture warrior.
I love John Paul II.
That man brought that. There's an amazing documentary on Amazon Prime called I wish I knew the name of it, but it's about John Paul II. Oh, John Paul II and communism, maybe something like that. But it's about showing how. I mean, you got to realize this is before all the scandals that came out and stuff, and they show John Paul meeting Gorbachev, and Gorbachev's knees are buckling. Like, he's so nervous around this towering figure, John Paul II, who's just like wagging his finger at him for the atrocities he's committing on his people, you know? I mean, the guy, look, he appointed some horrific cardinals. He was terrible with the liturgy, and he came up in the 60s. So he did have a little bit of that, you know, open the church to the world type of stuff. But that man was a powerhouse when it came to life issues, when it came to sexuality issues. I mean,
well, he gave us Ecclesia Dei. He actually, most of the work that Benedict XVI did on Summorum Pontificum was
building upon his work.
Was begun by John Paul II. John Paul II is also, I mean, Summorum Pontificum is also John Paul II's brainchild as well. I think he had some bad people surrounding him. I think Cardinal Angelo Zodano was a snake.
But think about how many of those cardinals
than I could throw in. But
under John Paul and Benedict, there was a lot of cardinals and bishops who we were like, "Oh, this guy's good. This guy's solid. This guy's solid." And then when Francis came out, it was like all their true colors came. The masks dropped for all of them. I mean, I remember.
Well, they're going to go along with whoever they think is going to further their.
Yeah, you could just see clericalism. These men are company men who just want to move up in the ranks. But Schönborn was like a student of Benedict XVI, and he was like. He was a good cardinal before Francis, and then Francis comes along and he's sitting there and he's talking about, well, you know, the family has to be. I mean, once we saw like you're talking about worrying about going to that college class about, you know, you were worried that it was going to be like a very left-leaning class. When Francis called that first synod on the family, I was thinking the opposite was going to happen. I was saying, okay, well, this is where you're going to see the indefectibility of the church come in. They're going to try and pull all this left stuff, but in the end, the Holy Ghost is going to protect the church, and you're not going to get any of these shenanigans, and we're going to get a solid document on the family. And that was back in 2015. And instead, we got, you know, the footnotes of what was his the thing that came from that.
Was it Morris Letizia?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
So we got the footnotes of Morris Letizia opening the floodgates to divorce and remarry. And the funny thing is about that, like, that was never about divorce and remarried people. It was never about that. Because first off, anybody who's divorced and remarried is going to go for an annulment. Everybody gets an annulment now. Like, there is no getting denied an annulment, right? So, and then 90% of people are going up, and nobody's questioning if they're divorced and remarried anyway. So what was the point of that whole document anyway? Honestly, I mean, the people who genuinely cared are going to do what the church actually teaches, right? Like right. It was almost like writing a document for people who don't care whether they're allowed to go or not. People who don't care
aren't waiting for you to give them permission anyway.
Exactly. It was such a strange thing.
Francis has burned all his political capital on all the nothing burgers that he's come. Remember the Synod on Synodality? That's still going on.
Still going.
I was going to say, remember it.
Yeah, because nobody talked about it nobody talked about it the first 3 weeks it started, and apparently it's still going on. But even the Vatican forgot about it. And
I wonder if Francis will live long enough to see that to come to fruition.
No, I mean, there's pretty credible rumors that he's going to retire now, and I don't know if that's true or not. But and Jason was even telling me sometimes the better the devil you know than the one you don't.
But I think the only reason I think there's any credibility to those rumors is because I think he wants to see how it plays out after he's gone. Like, I don't think he wants to leave it to, God's providence. He wants to be in the background. Maybe not even pulling strings, but he wants to see if all these guys he elected to the Cardinal.
He's vocal as he's going to ignore all the.
Yeah, he's not going to be a Benedict XVI, no way, quiet in the background. But I think he wants to see all the work he put in the past decade. Will it pay off? And that's why I think he might step down.
Yeah, but ultimately speaking, even if he doesn't, I don't worry about it because we already know who the winning team is, and. They're having their little moment right now. The modernists, they're having their little moment. The Supiches of the world, the bootlickers. My advice is enjoy it. Because, let me tell you, because it always comes to an end. And
here's why you know we're going to win. Here's why you know we're going to win. Because, of course, the gospel, we know in the apocalypse, Christ comes back to judge the living and the dead, and we know that Christ wins in the end. But aside from that, here's how you know we have to win. I saw a video the other day of Jason Alexander, who is George from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And it was a video of them asking George to find something funny about January 6th. So I really wanted to get this clip pulled up for us tonight so we could actually watch it. So Jason Alexander comes out and he intros himself in this whole long thing. And he's saying, I'm known as a comedian. People who know me as someone who's funny, who loves laughter, and they asked me to come up and find something funny about January 6th. And I got to tell you, for the life of me, there's nothing funny about it. He goes through all these horrific things about January 6th. And I'm saying to myself, how can anybody have watched January 6th, saw that idiot with the shaman hat on, with the painted face, and not laughed? How can you not laugh at that? That's how you know we're going to win. These people have no sense of humor. They don't know what's funny. They're so devoid of reality.
So
is this video just a close up of him?
It was through
because I see a video here and it just says he gives an urgent message for January 6th here.
That's probably it. Can you play it? If you can play it, it's so bad. Oh, look who! Wait, where were you? Was Stephen at Catholic Comedy?
How was Catholic Comedy?
Were you doing another chit chat with Rob segment, or?
Well, yeah, I figured that has a better chance of being successful. So
obviously, and you get to talk to guys like Father Ripperger.
Oh yeah.
Did you talk to him in the voice? Because
did you call him Father Chad?
Oh yeah.
For anybody who doesn't get the joke, go to Catholic Comedy on YouTube and listen to Chit Chat with Rob. Rob got to speak with Father Ripperger. He didn't consult me first.
Mark would get it if he would get on Twitter.
Rob did not consult me first. He did not ask if I was okay with this. He just decided, I'm leaving you, Anthony. I think that's grounds for divorce, but all right.
You were there when the deal was made to do it.
Everybody gets an annulment.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, so Rob, we're talking about George from Seinfeld. I told Rob we would save this for our show because I didn't know where we were going to go with your show, but we're in it. Let's do it. So George from Seinfeld put out a video about how nothing was funny about January 6th. And I said, how can you see January 6th with that idiot with the hat on and the painted face and not find that funny? Like, these people don't have a clue what funny is anymore.
QAnon shaman.
Yeah, the QAnon shaman. How could you watch that and not laugh at that?
Okay. All right, y'all ready here? I'll play the.
Let's see if Jason can pull this off. I might take you as my new tech guy if you could do this, Jay.
Well, I don't know. I guess I just share screen. So let me.
Yeah.
Are you doing it in Chrome? Because if you're not doing it in Chrome, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's in Chrome. What I'm also going to do is, first I'm going to do the Catholic Comedy thing, or you want me to do the Jason X?
No, let's do Catholic Comedy. Let's do Catholic Comedy. Come on, let's do Catholic Comedy.
Right. Well, I see. I might as well just leave again.
No.
Well, let me see if I can figure this out.
No, I'm kidding. What do you want to do? You want to do Jason Alexander? Let's do that. That's better. I don't want to do that to Rob.
Yes, you do. You do want to.
I do, but I'll leave it up to everybody.
Is it bad or what? What's it?
No, go for it. I mean,
no, it's great. It's great.
It's not great.
We're not. I don't want to lie if you're not.
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Can y'all see anything?
No.
No.
Okay, unlock the
Oh, you're like
screen.
me with the tech stuff, Jay.
Yeah. Let's see. Go to system preferences.
This is what happens when you join a show with a bunch of boomers.
Hey, I'm a millennial.
Well, let me. So I have a theory about. I don't know. I guess liberals, but modernists in particular, that really they're all, they don't have, you talked about how they don't have any sense of humor, and essentially they're all angry, bitter, miserable people who aren't going to be happy until everybody is as angry and bitter and miserable as they are.
Yeah, well, you think like no matter what you give, they want more, right? There's no apology that satiates them. There's no. It's a warping of.
Yeah, they just want you. The modernist essentially is a big ball of neuroses, and everything is, he's just kind of a nasty, mean person who. Okay, we're ready. Let's rock and roll.
All right, let's rock.
Okay, so y'all got it. Okay, let's see. I'll blow this up. Can y'all hear it?
I can hear it.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my new podcast, Chit Chat with Rob.
I can't watch.
Have a chat with famous Catholics. Today, I'm joined by renowned exorcist, Father Chad Rippinger. I can call you Father Chad, right?
Please don't.
Welcome to the show, Father Chad.
Well, I am happy to be here.
No, turn this off. I can't do it. Stop. I can't. Please turn it off.
Oh, sorry. About
What?
No, turn it off. Guys, if you want to see it, go to Catholic Comedy and watch it there. I can't sit through this.
Did you sit through it all earlier?
Oh, I did.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Mark. But see, we had Lou G over here laughing, and we stopped her.
Well, listen. Here's the thing. It's not even that it's bad. It's that I am going to scrutinize anything Rob does without me. Right? I mean, for the idea that he was going to go and do something on another channel and not talk to me about it and tell
Jason,
me when I saw
he pipes in with, "I'm going to do this for my other podcast," and I was like,
where do you come off doing this without my permission?
I had actually had kind of a 2-episode podcast like a couple years ago with another friend of mine. We just kind of quit doing it, but basically it was called Everyone and Their Mother, and it was going to be everything Marian, like, from Marian dogma.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's way better than Tradman.
And everything. Yeah,
that's why we're avoiding Tradman.
That's why we're in Babylon.
So you don't.
Babylon's the only place that'll invite us.
Well, listen, the part of the appeal of getting us together is we're just going to make fun of each other, right? So when I talked to Rob this morning, I went, "Really?" He went, "What? What'd I do?" I see you making appearances on other channels without talking to me here, but he goes, "Oh, that came out, huh? Oh, that came out."
You were literally there when I agreed to do it, Andy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with tonight's episode, right? Is that me and Mark, we usually talk about serious subjects and we have guests, so we can't kind of cut up and goof off most of the time, right? And we get with you guys and on your show, so you think the faith is really enjoyable, and then that other live you did for Mass of the Ages, we had some really
that was one of the most fun shows we did, man.
Yeah, and that was just a free for all.
It was a great time.
Topic. But did you want to play this Jason Alexander and then discuss?
Yeah, let's just see it, just because you could see how unfunny they are.
Okay.
Right. So if you could even just bring up you don't have to play the whole thing, but just show how unfunny they are, how they don't even have a grasp on humor. Okay, oh wow, time has not been kind to him.
Okay, no. So if this isn't the one, just let me know.
Let's hear it. Let's see. I heard the audio.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Alexander.
Yeah, this is it.
Internationally beloved comedy superstar and television icon from the 90s. People know me there. If they know me, primarily for comedy, for all things comedic, for making people laugh, or at least trying to. And I think that's why the good folks at Midas Touch asked if I could perhaps lend a comedic viewpoint to a rather serious subject, that being January 6th and the January 6th insurrection.
You might have to pause it and talk over it so you don't get hit with
looked at it from every comedic.
Okay.
Like if you don't pause these and talk over them, they'll hit you with a copyright strike. Now just think about like how he prefaces this. I'm funny. I'm a comedian from the 90s and everybody knows me.
I am so relevant to today.
Yes, I am the funny man. Everybody knows me as the funny man. And they asked me to speak about this topic of January 6th. And let's see what he says. What's funny?
A complete insurrection.
I knew him because he was on a funny man show. I remember that.
Yeah, that nobody took serious.
Comedic angle I can think of, and I tell you, it is elusive. I am not exactly putting my finger on the comedic button. You got American citizens storming our nation's capital, breaching the barricades, attacking police officers, breaking and entering our Capitol building itself, committing further acts of violence, vandalizing.
And you have a grandma that's 93 years old waving an American flag in a little hallway, and you have this idiot with this stupid hat on. There's funny in there. How can these people not see the humor in this? I don't get it.
I'm actually amazed at how quick America went from being all of our institutions were racist and had to be abolished to democracy is sacred. Yeah. And how
it just depends on
you.
It just depends on what you're talking. It just depends.
It depends if those institutions are serving their voluntarist agenda.
Right. And so you know what you call somebody whose only criteria of what they're for or against is whether or not it helps them? That's a sociopath. That is the clinical definition of a sociopath.
Yeah, people love to play the they always want to call out the hypocrisy of the left, but that's not. There is no hypocrisy on the left. They have one rule, and that is power. So it's like, yeah, I know if we did this, they'll jump all over it, and when they do it, they just ignore it. Like you look at like every single shooting, you look at what the perpetrator was, and that depends. That gives you what the entire. Oh, thank God for Don. So yeah, like you look at it, always goes by who the perpetrator was. If it was a white male, then you know the narrative they're going to go with. But they don't care about actually having principle or consistency. It just doesn't work like that. That's not. You know, they care about their narrative, and if it serves their purpose, and they'll run with whatever they have to further their power and their agenda.
You know, and I was thinking about this past weekend in Idaho, right, in Coeur d'Alene, where they had all these these white supremacists.
Yeah, wait. I don't know that story. I saw somebody posted something about that. What happened in Idaho?
So apparently, and if either of you, Mark or Rob, have heard it, and I misspeak, let me know. But basically what happened is, I guess they got a tip or whatever that these white nationalists were going to cause a riot, I guess as a counter protest to the Pride celebration they were having. And they found all these guys in the back of a U-Haul van and arrested them for threatening to cause a riot. Now, as far as I know, they didn't actually do anything. It was
it's weirder than that. They're all, I mean, you know, conservatives and right wing.
Are they the same guys who went to the March for Life at the front of the March for Life parade?
Yes. And they're all in good shape. Now, there's always a fat guy amongst us. I know because I'm usually the fat guy. it's weird to find a group of like right wing pro Trump guys and there's not one fat guy. Okay, that's weird. Two, they're all there.
Khaki Dockers. I haven't even seen it, and I know it.
They're all there in zip ties behind their back on their knees. Their masks are still on. Their sunglasses are still.
Yes, you never see their faces.
Names are not released. Yeah,
but it's weirder than that. They're not even really being arrested. I mean, being arrested is they put you in the zip ties and then they transport you somewhere. You got to get booked. But the whole thing's just looks staged. It looks like a photo op.
Well, my question is, and I'm not the only one that brought this up, so this isn't just me, just my brainchild, I guess. But what about all the Antifa and the BLM and all them that are actually committing crimes, and they just let it run.
And they're just
amok.
getting let go by the Soros DAs. They get arrested. They're out 10 minutes later, and nothing ever comes. You saw the two people who threw the Molotov cocktail in the police vehicle in New York. They're getting like 2 years. Like if that happened on the other side, they would be in jail for life. Lock away the key, throw away the key. That's a wrap.
So what I guess, and to bring it back to Catholicism, because we're not really a political podcast, but
no, but I was going to bring up a Catholic point if I could bring it up, because y'all saw the shirt on that one federal agent, right, that was arrested.
What did it say? Why don't we get Jason Alexander off the screen, because he's kind of funny looking.
Okay. Well, but basically it was like an armada vessel with trying to think of what the name of that symbol is. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me find it here real quick, and I'll tell you.
See if you can find, because I only saw somebody said Ryan Grant was on the ground over there, and that was the only thing I saw. Somebody said that Ryan Grant was on the ground over there, and he was going to be reporting on what actually happened, because you could tell right away if it was an actual situation like that, it would have been all over every single news source. It would, this is staged. Come on.
Well, they say that they've found ties between this Patriot Front and like the Azov battalions and other organizations in Ukraine that have ties to the CIA.
Okay, now this is interesting. Now I haven't seen this. These
there's an actual arrest.
Well,
arrest
these are mugshots. Okay, well now listen, I'm the first one to say that if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm not out to promote conspiracy theories, knowing that they're wrong just because it'll help me, right? But I do have to say that it's weird to arrest a domestic. I mean, first of all, if they did what they did, then the FBI ought to be involved, because once you rent a U-Haul, you're now in interstate commerce, and that's federal.
Well, did they catch them with anything?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, is it illegal to go and counter protest?
It was just very strange that there were all these guys with their masks on and their zip ties, but they weren't really doing anything. They weren't arresting them. They just sort of had them there in the zip ties, and they were standing there like it was a photo op, and they weren't transporting them anywhere, asking them any questions, reading any rights. That's what happens when you.
Oh, this is Mark sharing his screen. Okay,
that's me. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, no. I was sitting here trying to figure out how the heck is that. Well,
he's like, oh man, there's a ghost in the machine.
No, but okay. So here, I'll show you the picture I was talking about. I can't think of the name of this, but it's a Catholic symbol, at least unless I'm completely wrong. But I found it.
Well, are they trying to make it like they were like traditional Catholics, or?
I don't know, but can you see that? It's a cross.
That's the Jerusalem cross.
Jerusalem cross. There you go.
It's definitely, whether you call it Catholic or Orthodox in origin, it's Christian in origin, but yeah. But I mean, at the same time, it's also kind of a crusading symbol. So anyone with that mindset would think of using it potentially.
But what's more troubling to me is that the entire nation, we can't know what's true anymore, because every word that comes out of their mouth is a lie.
It's and crazy, they feel like, right?
And,
you don't even know what to believe.
And they will
anymore.
tell you we have the right to lie because it's for the greater good. Well, the problem with that is Jesus said, I am the truth. So there is no greater good than telling the truth. And if there is, you have to master the smaller goods first. And the rest of us kind of figured out in kindergarten that it's better to tell the truth than tell a lie. But these folks are adults. Well, these folks are adults that don't know how to arrive at moral conclusions that your average 9-year-old can reach.
I mean, to be fair, though, that's kind of the whole problem with our country. I mean, from the very beginning is we're not a country that believes in truth. We're a country that believes in truth is whatever the majority of the people decide it is. So then you have, groups of people that all they care about are power, and, whatever they want and whatever they will, they'll use whatever means they can to get 51% of the population to vote for it, because that then in our country is truth. And that's the problem.
Yeah. And it's also, like you just said, like the idea that, like how they even determined Roe v. Wade was based on that, because they were trying to say everyone has the right to their own destiny and things like that. Like that's really just totally devoid of truth completely. So it's
Well, what the Supreme Court's job is not to tell you what is good policy or bad public policy. The only thing that branch of government does, and this is the reason why we don't vote for our Supreme Court justices and they have lifetime tenure, is to tell you, is to ensure that whatever laws Congress passes and whatever means the president uses to enforce those laws must comply with what is enshrined in the Constitution. That's it. That's all they do. They interpret the law. And then they came out and they said, well, but we really feel like this would be a good idea.
Yeah,
and
they started legislating from the bench.
Every time they do that, those decisions go down as the most notorious decisions in the Supreme Court's history every time.
Well, I'll tell you, if you looked at the leaked draft that came out, there's one thing that Alito put in there that was so poignant and accurate. He said, Roe v. Wade has been, I forgot the wording of it, but he said Roe v. Wade, since it was enacted, has been used to make the Supreme Court this political entity that people are just focused on getting. It's no more about justice and anything to do with the law. It's just about a political entity that they can get to swing, they can use to legislate from the bench. And the way he worded it was really unbelievable.
Here's why that's dangerous, because it's a political entity whose politics that you are not invited to participate in. And that's the real problem with this. Now, we can have a system where 9 unelected people with lifetime tenure decide what the best way for you to live your life is, but it won't be Republican democracy. It'll be judicial oligarchy, and it will be abused. All you got to do is read your Bible, read your catechism. And here's a little thing for the people who Ruth sent us. Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't a fan of Roe v. Wade. She felt that there was no constitutional. She said it was no constitutional basis for. Now, she was a fan of the policy, unfortunately.
Yeah, but she said it was bad law.
It is bad constitutional law, and everybody knows it. So, but again, we live in a pretty dumb and uneducated society that doesn't have basic civics.
No, when that draft got leaked, 80% of the country assumed Roe v. Wade was now made abortion illegal in every state, countrywide. They didn't even realize they didn't realize that A, it was a draft, and that it wasn't actually a ruling, and B, that all that would do is give the rights back to each individual state to make the decision for themselves.
It just says actually, the federal government could technically pass a law saying that you have some kind of, but even that wouldn't stand, because the states are the federal government can't pass a law saying the states can't pass this kind of law unless it's in the Constitution. So.
Well, I was listening to Integrated with Angela Erickson today, and she did an episode with Dr. Francis Beckwith, or I can't remember his last name, but they were talking about Roe v. Wade and other abortion issues, right? And I'm probably going to butcher it, but basically they were talking about a lot of people don't understand Roe, like actually what Roe entailed, right? One of the justifications at the time for Roe was, previous to this time period that we're in, these operations of these abortion procedures were too dangerous to the mother, but now they're safer, and then it became a debate of viability, right? Well, what's viable? And I didn't know this, but she actually made the comment that as we look, we talk about first, second, and third trimester, that was never even, I guess, terminology per se, until after Roe, when the American
Roe made it illegal. Roe made it so that you had to allow abortion you couldn't legislate on abortion until after the first trimester. If I'm right.
Yeah, because they talk about viability, right? But as she
mentioned, but as technology advances, viability could go down to 3 weeks, right?
I was going to say, as she's mentioned in her podcast, viability is very fluid as technology advances, right? So where is the line in that? And of course,
that line was actually moved by a further case called KCB Planned Parenthood, which moved that line again to something else.
Mark, you're a lawyer, so right. What kind of law do you practice? Actually, personal injury, right?
No, if I practice personal injury, we'd all be in my sweet recording studio. I'd have flown y'all down just in my private jet just for this podcast.
Oh man,
hey, we're gonna talk off air after this show.
That's right.
Mark, me and you should have done the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, man. We had 8 million subs by now. We could have got rid of these two bums.
I do. To answer your question, I do criminal law, and I also do debt relief and small claims court. But I was in law school. Constitutional law was my jammy jam. I loved constitutional law, and I firmly believe that the Constitution's unique genius. It's not bicameral legislation. England has that. So we're not the first ones to do that. And it's not really tripartite government. There are governments all over the world that have 3, maybe sometimes even 4 branches of government. But the unique thing about the Constitution is the first document to set up 3 branches of government in opposition to each other so that no one branch of government maintains too much power. Yeah. And they were very concerned about the concentration of power. So if you look at the branch with the most power is Congress. And out of the 2 houses of Congress, the one with the most power is the House of Representatives because it has the most people. The power is diffused amongst more people. And then you have this problem of a chief executive. This is the point where power is concentrated at the highest person, and the highest, most central point. And that guy has the shortest article in the Constitution, Article 2. It's the shortest article in the Constitution. He has the least number of enumerated powers in the entire Constitution for a reason. And then you have a court system set up independent. If you go to Mexico, the president basically appoints his family members to the court, and they're all there to prop each other up. England has had a right to bear arms going back to the 1500s. We got our right to bear arms from a continuation of the English common law system. The problem is in England, Parliament writes the laws, so Parliament determines what the laws mean. They have no independent judiciary, so they haven't had a right to bear arms for almost 150 years probably. And so the unique genius of our Constitution really is that
yeah, and that's what's getting so scary nowadays, because you're seeing how they're purging people who don't think in line with that crazy narrative that's going on. So you're seeing, even with the election, right? Which I know that's a terrible thing to talk about, but forget the idea of fraud or anything, but the cases that they tried to bring were getting tossed because of no standing. Like they weren't even able to get these cases before a judge. They would get thrown out for no standing before the case could even be heard.
But see, that's legit though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a lot of, not really, like even in the Pennsylvania one, there was like, well, no, it really probably should have been no standing because they did it after the election. But like there was just so many cases that like where if you have judges who are picked by one political party, and then you have, it's very dangerous when you have all 3 of the branches of government all thinking alike.
And the issue there is that the Electoral College was established for much the same reason that we were just talking about. It was decided early on that the states would elect the president. And if you think about it, that makes sense. That's the only election that all of us get to participate in together. Now, we may vote for our congressional representatives, but Anthony, you can't vote for the 2nd congressional district in Houston. You don't get to vote in that election. I do. And so there's only one election that all of us get to vote in, and that's the president. So the Electoral College was established with that. And in order to keep the states sovereign, it was decided that each state would determine its own electoral process for deciding who these electors would be. Yeah. And in some states that's better, and in some states that's not. And
they're trying to federalize elections now too.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I always go back to is we can't build a perfect society here on this earth. We can do better than we've done before in some cases, and some cases not, but we must always get our morality and our theological and moral teachings from the Catholic Church. It is the only institution that we can count on all the time to tell us the truth. Not the Pope necessarily, the church. That's the only place we can go where we are sure 100% of the time what is right and what is not.
Yeah, I think that's why people are losing it right now, because that stability and that rock, especially when it comes to moral foundation, seems like it's getting shaky, right? Like it seems like...
Well, in the eyes of most, it's gone. The church has no moral authority for most people anymore.
All that is the fault of the modernists themselves.
I was going to say, and the church has hurt itself in that regard. So, the church obviously in its perfection, indefectibility and whatnot, has the moral high ground. But now us as the lay people have a huge uphill battle due to the evil acts of some within the church.
Well, let's talk about even like the catechism changing with the death penalty, right? I have to tell you, I think the best argument against the death penalty is I'd rather 10 guilty go free than 1 innocent be put to death, right? Like, it's the idea of Sodom and Gomorrah, like Abraham saying, well, what if there's 100 people that are all right, then I'll spare the city. What if there's only 10? All right, then I'll spare the city. But you can't find even one, then that's it. You know, the city's got to go. But especially with corrupt governments, like that would be the only thing I would say is the only decent argument against allowing a death penalty. So now when you see that the way Francis did that and changed it, if he had worded it in a way that wasn't like he worded it in a way that made it sound like it is a moral evil.
Yeah, I was gonna say, me and Rob have talked about this on social media with somebody. It's been reframed. It's been reframed that it's an intrinsic evil, and again,
that's crazy because then you're saying the church
something that is intrinsically evil can never be a good, and vice versa.
Right.
Good can never be intrinsically evil. So
like I'm not planning on lethally injecting somebody, right? So I don't care per se about the death penalty. Like I don't care if there's no death penalty so much. I mean, I do think it should be there as a deterrent, and I think it's there for justice sake, but especially with seeing how little I trust our government now, I'm not so much concerned with the enactment of the death penalty as I am the moral, like the stability of the church holding its word to what it taught for 2,000 years at this point.
And I'm there with you because I'm kind of, I support the death penalty because, again, historically, the church has said that it's not an evil, that it can be a good when used properly.
That it's actually used
for the good of the soul.
Well, right. It's used in obedience to the 5th commandment, actually, when used properly.
So
I never understood.
But the thing that I struggle with on it is I'm like you, Anthony. I don't trust the state.
Yeah.
The state is evil and corrupt, and it's getting worse, particularly in this country.
And we're going to be the ones on the receiving end of it.
But I can't come out and say you do not support, like the left says, oh, well, you're not truly pro-life.
Yeah, I think that's
and stuff like that, because it's so lame. Because while I support it, I still have my doubts on who is actually executing.
Yeah, those are moral platitudes that they love to shout out.
I mean,
Rob, I'll let you go, and then I want to chime in after Rob.
Catholic moral theology would say that for the death penalty to be admissible, it would have to be done by a government that is legitimate and is just and holds legitimate authority. So one could definitely make the case that, well, for instance, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, Communist China, these places are not legitimate governments. They don't hold legitimate authority given by God. So no, they can't use the death penalty in a moral way. They don't.
But even that, the death penalty is actually for the good of the soul. And until like I used to have like a hard time with that because I was a JP2 Catholic, where it was like, oh, you're pro-life, you got to be against the death penalty. But no, like if somebody actually did commit a heinous crime and they know their end is coming, the hope is that they will repent. Now, if you let somebody just stay in jail for life, they're going to develop a new life. They're going to get into gangbanging in the prison. But if they know their end is coming, it causes them to reflect on their life and repent before death.
I did real quick, Mark, if you don't mind. I had a question for Rob. But actually, real quick, Timothy Gordon had some stats one time when he was talking with Trent Horn about how those on death row have I can't remember how he phrased it, but basically a much higher rate of repentance, I guess, if you want to say, sorrow for their crime. My question for Rob is just, so you mentioned Catholic moral theology, talks about legitimate governments. When you're having that discussion with somebody, what would you say is a legitimate government versus not? Because I know you mentioned like Soviet communism, and then you mentioned Nazism in Germany and whatnot. and maybe that's too much of a nuanced question, but I was just kind of curious of your thoughts on that.
That's a tough one. That's a deep one. I'd have to dive deep into
It's all Father Ripper.
So I want to be the dissenting.
I
wanted to be the dissenting opinion. Well, maybe not the dissenting opinion, but I want to stick up for what the Catechism says about the death penalty, even the Revised Catechism. The Catechism lays out certain conditions for the intentional taking of a human life in order for it to be done legitimately, and in a sense, it is a last ditch effort to protect someone from an unjust aggressor that a person has a good reason to believe is an immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury. In the case of, and for most of human history, prisons, especially the modern penal system, didn't exist. Prisons were kind of, iffy thing, right?
You even look to like the West in the 1800s. If you robbed something, they'd hang you. Because they didn't have a prison system to give you a 15-year sentence.
And also part of Pope Francis's decision, what Mark is talking about, is the penal system, how we're much more advanced. But I also think that's a very narrow first world type viewpoint on the penal system itself.
And it's also not applicable in all situations here. Do you guys remember Ted Bundy?
Yeah.
Ted Bundy escaped jail awaiting trial twice, and both times when he would escape, he would go on a murdering spree and kill innocent people.
Really?
And finally, when
he got out, but
when they finally executed him in Florida, they went to, they clean out your stuff the cell you've been in on death row, and the hinges on the cell he was in just came off. He'd been working on getting out of there.
Wow.
And so in that situation,
now I gotta research Ted Bundy.
I would make the argument that in that situation, the death penalty is appropriate because there's no other way to protect society.
Yeah, and especially if a prisoner's like killing other prisoners in the prison, things like that. People's lives are at risk.
To the extent that we can be, I think what we're trying to do is take an abstract moral principle like human life is sacred and apply it even in situations where it makes us uncomfortable a little bit to do so, because that's called integrity, right? That's called being honest with yourself and saying, and it's not right to ask the pro-abortion people to do that if you're not willing to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's why it's different. The one thing that both the left in this country and the right on this country would agree on is that it is immoral to give the death penalty to an innocent person.
Oh, yeah.
So if that's the case, abortion is the death penalty to an innocent person. There's no other way to look at it.
Did you see my protege put out that clip today? Matt Frad put out that clip of the woman speaking.
Did he really?
I'm like, I didn't put out any clips today.
Did he really? No,
Yeah.
He put out a clip of a woman saying how no matter what country you go to, whether the death penalty is legal or not, like if the one time and the death penalty is never admissible in any country, regardless of anything, is if the woman is pregnant. Because everybody recognizes that baby is innocent of the crime. So you could never give the death penalty to a pregnant woman. It's a good clip.
That's interesting.
I told him well.
Except the left doesn't think that the child is innocent.
I know.
They'll claim that it's, that the child is forcing the woman to give birth to it, or is harming the woman.
Anybody who would say that is a psychopath, and of
course,
and we've got to be able to look at somebody who say, like, we got to be smarter as a country a little bit too. Like, I know everybody hates Joe Biden, but he isn't doing anything he didn't tell you he was going to do when he was running. Mm-hmm. Why on earth did you think, you can't get mad at him now? That doesn't help you. You voted him in now. That doesn't help you. And
I don't think many people put much thought process into it. I think people are just tribal to the point where they're not even
right.
I don't think there's a cognitive connection for them that they see $7 gas price and Joe Biden as president. I really don't think people make
is now. There's polling numbers out there to suggest that. And I get the weird feeling. By the way, how have we not talked about what's going on with Bill Maher these days?
But,
Bill Maher's been like that, though.
No, that's what I was going to say. Bill Maher. No. Well, so here's the thing. He's pushing back a little bit instead of just going along with every little thing. But Bill Maher is like a lot like he's got that classical liberal kind of mentality
Yeah,
where I think he's finally starting to see it's going too far.
Yeah, he's very left wing in just about everything, but he's always been pretty much against this whole.
Yeah, he's more libertarian than left wing.
He say he's libertarian. No,
now he is.
No way.
No, he just had Trump derangement syndrome.
No, but even before that, I don't even know how you align with him with the libertarian, because he's so far out there.
Yeah, he definitely is a leftist, but I'm saying he got Trump derangement syndrome so bad that he is now shocked at the playing board when he set the playing board because of all the things he was helping to advance over the past 10 years.
Well, people can change and the Holy Ghost can work miracles. Did you see his segment about the gun violence issue?
Great.
I expected him to take the classic gun. Come on,
you talking about the movie clip?
Come
he was
on,
talking about
guns
the Hollywood
are bad, and we all know
movies in Hollywood. You were talking about that clip,
but he attacked the culture of violence.
Yeah, the culture of violence in Hollywood. It was really good.
Now that is an authentically Catholic position there, because there is something wrong in a society. I'm a tattoo guy. I have tattoos. I have the Sacred Heart here and everything. I just saw a video of a guy who got a tattoo of Pablo Escobar. He got a photorealistic tattoo of a homicidal psychopath that brutally and murdered innocent.
Well, Mark, how many people wear Che Guevara shirts?
Yeah,
run around with Che Guevara shirts.
And
they have no idea who this guy is.
You got
in your high schools. The ultimate race, or one of the ultimate racist, homophobic, genocidal maniacs to live.
And so there's something wrong, and it goes back to we and I know you were talking about earlier. It's even crept into the church. I would argue that it started there. So as the Catholic Church goes, so goes the world. And it may take about 50 years in lag time, but this started in the 1960s after the council. I would say that's
where do you think
before.
What do you think happens over the next few years with the church?
Man, schism.
Yeah,
large scale schism.
In all reality, there is one already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe not in practice, but like there really is one already. Like I see some of the things they're doing in Novus Ordo land, and I hate to even say that, right? Like I still will attend the Novus Ordo mass, but some of the things you see are just so insane and bonkers at this point. The only time I've been denied communion in my life is when I went to kneel and receive on the tongue, and it happened 2 times in the past 2 years. It just seems like, how is this the religion I was taught?
Well, and that's like if they were to outlaw the traditional Latin Mass, I would make a solid attempt to fulfill my Sunday obligation at the Novus Ordo parish. But if it gets to a point where I start to feel like I'm worshiping strange gods, the Catholic Church, no one in the hierarchy of the church can command me to worship strange gods.
Yeah. So like, what happens if now that you
walk out?
What happens if now that you have soupage at the Congregation for Divine Worship, they start popping in these, like, that's my mom's line. Like, my mom's like, I'm going to stay going here until, like, I guess she has this line she's not going to cross, right? So it's like, well, what is that line? Is it women deacons? What is that line? Is it, if they add Pachamama to the canon, like, what is the line?
That'll do it.
There already are functional women deacons, unfortunately.
They're not wearing clerical garb, but functionally there are.
Sometimes they do.
Altar girls.
They're getting. Actually, that's what Rob said is true. It might have been in Bahrain or somewhere. I went to mass one time, and I remember I saw a woman walking around in what'd you call
clerics, more or less.
Yeah, clerical robes and stuff. And I was just, at first I was like, okay, did I walk into the wrong church? But she wasn't active during the mass, but she was dressed up to get everything basically set up. But I mean all this from female altar servers to the female acolytes and all that, it's just getting everybody used to seeing that. So that when they go a step further, you're not shocked.
Let me also say this though, because a lot of the women who are helping at mass aren't doing it because they're liberal crazies who are trying to move the. They
Yeah,
are women who are genuinely trying to serve the church, and because the church is allowing it, they think they're doing a good thing, right? Like like a lot of people like will see clips of like women doing things like that, and they're like, these are, I know some of them. They're some of the most genuine, spiritually, like supernatural, faith-filled people you'll ever meet in your life. And they genuinely, from the bottom of their heart, just want to serve the church. And they're going up and reading the readings at Mass because they want to help, not because they're revolutionaries.
Because the church has confused this idea of what active participation actually is.
It's crazy.
And I agree, because when we were talking about schism, that it's already, and maybe not in practice per se, but is there. But we have to be careful too, because it's not necessarily a Novus Ordo versus TLM type schism, right? Because
definitely not. No way. I think it's an Orthodox Catholic versus lib
because
Cath,
like you said, I've mentioned on our show before, my kids' godparents, all 6 of them, I met them through my conversion through a Novus Ordo parish. Some of the most intelligent Catholics I've ever met, and can talk to anybody about traditional Catholicism and stuff like that. And there are very holy people in.
And just think how few people even have access to the Latin Mass. So forget, it's not. This is not a liturgy divide. It is an Orthodox Catholic versus left Catholic. That's where the divide is.
See, I think that's one of my big issues with, among many, with Sedevacantists, right, is the fact that it is such a, like you mentioned, it's a liturgy divide, and it's more than that, but at least among the Sedevacantists and the Roman Rite, I don't know if there's some from the Eastern Catholic side, right? But everything,
those are called Orthodox.
Yeah. But everything goes back to the Novus Ordo, right? And I want to ask the Sedevacantists, sometimes you're saying that the TLM is the only liturgy that benefits man. What about our Eastern brethren? Our Eastern Catholics. So I don't know what they would necessarily say that, but
Sedevacantism is largely an American fad. I'm not saying there's no Sedevacantists around the world. It is largely an American fad for people who have an internet connection and who have money. And there's no way, in my mind, that God would hide his church from the little ones who are poor in these third world countries. It's just illogical.
Look at Africa. Africa's
you think somebody in Africa and those little villages has ever heard of Novus Ordo Watch? They haven't, I assure you. And it's just illogical.
It's an American fad because those people have the same presuppositions as your liberal American Protestants. They believe they have the authority. They as individuals, they're the source of power and of authority, and they can interpret. I mean, it's really sola scriptura, except instead of just the Bible, they've added in.
They're adding in
the documents,
and all the other accounts.
Yeah.
And they don't even agree among themselves.
They're fractured themselves. And if you ever see like the most holy family guys are fighting with the Novus Ordo Watch guys, it's so funny actually.
And they've deified the Pope. Because essentially what you're saying
as where Peter is.
As the Pope is bad, it's not the one true church anymore, meaning the Pope is God.
Yep.
And I'll never forget one time I had a very holy traditional priest. He was an FSSP priest, and I was complaining about the Novus Ordo and all this, that, and the other thing. And he just turned to me and he said, "Don't be holier than the church."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, boom."
A lot of people have to be careful getting caught up with personality cults too, especially with online traditionalism, right? And I made a comment the other day, and I think
not the people on this show. You guys are cool.
Rob and I made a. We've had many discussions about this. We will not criticize the hierarchy, especially the Pope. Like, I'm not saying we won't. Like tonight, vaguely. Yeah, like we talked about tonight, like vaguely, but I'm never gonna come up and call Francis a heretic.
Well, we
nothing
talk
like
to
that.
him respectfully. Yeah, we talk to him respectfully.
He's the Pope. I mean,
yes, exactly. He's the Holy Father. Yeah,
he's the Pope. Like we can say, okay, I'm not crazy about Morris Laetitia, but
as much as I disagree with everything Kupich does, he's a prince of the church.
A prince of the church. Yeah.
I just can't force myself to say anything nice about Supich. So
you don't have to say anything nice, but you also can't go on a tirade because we are laymen. And
you're right.
We have.
Right.
We don't.
I will say this. I honestly think the issue with Francis is he has surrounded himself with some people who have an agenda. And I mean, when you're the Pope,
There's only so many
the last 3 or 4 popes, though, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
you've got, but you don't. The Vatican is a very. I mean, I would hire a food taster if I worked in the Vatican, right? I mean, and
John
you
Paul
surround
I.
yourself with these people who are they're all ambitious as Lucifer and cunning as a rattlesnake. Okay. And these are the people who give you all your information. When you're the Pope, you can't fly down to Regina Caeli Parish and sit in the pews and go, so what do you guys like? Your only info about what the traditionalists are like are what Roach tells you they're like. And if you and if you listen to that over and over and over again, you're gonna have an opinion of traditionalists that is very slanted and very negative and very, because when he was the bishop of Buenos Aires, when Summorum Pontificum came out, he created a space for the traditional Latin Mass celebrated every Sunday in his diocese. So he wasn't always like this. This is new, and that's what troubles me is going into this conclave is who. The people who've been advising him and whispering in his ear are now going to be up for election. And,
I think we all need to really pray our hearts out on this. Pray and
sacrifice, man. Absolutely. So I don't know. I pray for the Holy Fathers. I hope that the Holy Spirit enlightens his perception of a lot of things.
And we've also, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, I think we really need to pray that Benedict goes first. Because if Benedict goes first,
there'll be no confusion about the insanity of the next election.
That holds that Benedict was the true pope. Well, in past history, when a pope has been illegally deposed by the emperor, the newly elected pope was considered an anti-pope until the previous pope died. And then even though that election maybe was spurious at best, the church then recognized him as pope and he was pope. So if Benedict goes first, then...
Yeah, I think one of the things that bothers Francis the most is that Benedict hung out as long as he did. Like I don't think he ever expected to have this thing in Rome hanging around to bring to take away some of the credibility of some of the decrees he's made and things like that. So
I just wanted to add, we're talking about, fasting and prayer to the Holy Spirit to do certain things within the church, right? To bring it back on the Orthodox path as far as its leaders go. But I also think we have to be careful because I was thinking about this because Kennedy Hall actually made a post on, the consecration of Our Lady of Fatima, right? To Russia. And he mentioned, that a lot of people are saying, well, this needs to happen in this time period and so on and so forth. And who are we to tell God when and how to do what he knows how to do better than
I think people's perception of that is totally off because I think things are going to get worse before God fixes it.
Yeah. But what I was going to say, though, is leading into that, the same thing with the church. When we're making these or when we're saying our prayers and fasting for the church, we've also got to remember if we do that and then we happen to get another pope that is not, or maybe is even worse than Pope Francis, as far as we're concerned, don't lose faith because in God's time, he will handle.
Yeah, there's no more important parable than the one where Jesus is asleep in the boat. Right now for our times, right? Where
that wasn't a parable, that was an actual
it was a story. Right. Well, so Christ is asleep in the boat, and the disciples are panicking because the storm's going crazy and the boat's rocking all over. It's like he's still in the boat. He's still got the helm. Chill out, everybody.
And I have a weird and interesting take on the denial of Peter. Most people read that story, and I've often read it myself, that Peter was scared of the crowd, and that's why he denied Christ. What if, and I hope I'm not venturing into heresy here, but what if he was not scared, he was disillusioned? Because remember, in the Garden of Gethsemane, hours before this, he was ready to get down with these people. He drew his sword out. He wasn't scared of these temple guards. Let's do it. And Christ tells him, put his sword away. Now, if I'm Peter, I'm thinking, oh, you're going to do something. And I've seen the kind of what are you going to do, Jesus? Are we going to turn these people into snakes or what are we going to do? And it even says, as they're leading Jesus to Caiaphas's house, Peter's following along. If he's really so scared, why does he show up to the trial? He shows, I think he may have showed up thinking, man, we're going to turn you all into snakes and then we're going to see what's up. And instead, Jesus says nothing. He allows himself to be insulted, spit on, hit. And that's when Peter says, forget it. I'm done with this guy. And he's even described as cursing. Like he's angry as he's walking away. What if he's disillusioned? And how many of us, I know I've felt that way so many times. The church does something that is just infuriating and you're just like, that's it. These people are all evil. I'm done. Jesus, it's your church. You fix it.
You think about every single line in the Gospels, and I'm talking like early in my conversion, there was a time where I was out drinking with a bunch of guys who I hadn't seen in a long time, and they hadn't known me since my conversion. And I was embarrassed about my conversion, and I deny. So somebody was like, "Oh, I hear Anthony's going to church and this and that," and I was like, "No," and I downplayed it. And I remember being so devastated at myself and disappointed in myself. And then you read Peter's denial, and it's like every single line in the Gospels is there for one of those instances in your life where you make a mistake or you do something. Like if
There's
Peter never denied
under the sun.
like I would have maybe been so like guilt-ridden at my mistake, and I wouldn't have seen that. No, we're all broken men. Even Peter denied Christ, and he witnessed everything. Like every single line of those Gospels were written to speak to our hearts for the times when we're in trouble, for the times when we deny Christ, and the times where all these, like, and you just think about the storm swelling around us right now, and the waves are crashing on it. It seems like the boat's going to sink, and it's just like, do we believe that God's in control or don't we?
Yeah, every tyrant on earth has been the one who's going to take down the church, and those guys are all dead, and we're still here.
Yeah,
and these people are not more terrifying than the Stalins of the world. I know they imagine themselves to be, but trust me, I'm not scared of these people.
Y'all are Father Mike Schmidt's fans, right? Didn't y'all say that?
Love him. I love him.
Okay, so
adore that man.
There was I guess a few years ago it was an Easter homily or whatever. And he was talking about when Jesus was, Mark reminded me of this, talking about Jesus being led away. But when he was being led or being crucified, right before that point, I guess, when he was carrying his cross and he was being scourged at the pillar and all that, and people were spitting on him, laughing at him, mocking him, committing all kinds of blasphemies against him and whatnot. He was like, we kind of view this event as these are just some random people in a crowd. But to Jesus, he literally knew every intimate detail about every single person that was spitting on him, that was hitting him, that was mocking him. He knew that person better than themselves. And he still said, I'm going to keep going forward with this.
I think the hardest part of the agony in the garden for Jesus was not the pain that he was going through physically.
Right. It was experience everyone's sins that would happen for the rest of time.
And more than that, knowing that the people he was going to die for had they didn't care. That it's like he is God and we're about to murder our creator. Because I just think that is so much more infinitely worse than the physical pain he endured. It's like to know that the people he loved into existence are going to not only not care, but actively kill him,
and that's
guys,
and that's what's real.
You have to go before
you go.
I'm like, we finally got into really getting into the faith and talking about stuff, and I gotta go pick my kids up.
Go pick your kids up, but
real
keep us
quick,
on.
Anthony, I wanted to say one thing to you real quick because I was reading, or I still am reading that book by Tom Holland.
There's going to be some things you don't agree 100% with him on, but the main thing was that intro. I really thought was so amazing.
No, I like that. But what I was getting at, you're talking about, how Christ came down and knew everything. He's talking about right now about how in ancient religions, there's no way God would ever lower himself to come to the human level because descend, because you were going to do God's bidding. Otherwise, you were going to suffer God's wrath. Where Jesus descended down to man so that he may, bring us.
That book really is great because it shows how the idea of a slave on a cross could be God was so baffling to an ancient mind. It was a scandal to the Jews, especially. It was just, if you saw someone being crucified, you were defiled.
And apparently, according to Tom Holland, like nobody had ever really written down or detailed a crucifixion until 4 gentlemen decided to write about the crucifixion of a Jew from the Middle East,
because it was so horrific they didn't even want to talk about it. And the Romans said that the Persians invented it because it was so torturous and cruel. They didn't even want to take credit for inventing it. They blamed it on the Persians, and the Persians blamed it on the Babylonians, and nobody wanted to say, yeah, we came up with this. But it was just such a torturous, horrific way to go, that the idea that could be God. Like, you have to think about, somebody actually posted the other day and they were like, do you realize how grotesque a crucifix is? Like, what if somebody could you imagine having a guillotine in your home, or a firing squad, a picture of a firing squad? It's like, yes, that's the point. Do you understand? We go and we drop to our knees at the sight of the most grotesque, horrific murder of all time, a man being strung up naked on a cross.
And he mentions that in the book, right? How after the crucifixion, the early Christians didn't really have a whole lot of artwork on Jesus.
Oh, they would, it wasn't until like the 5th century, right?
And then when they started to, Jesus was depicted as a muscular, man. But as time went on, and as the church and Christians started to really grasp what happened and stuff like that, then they started depicting him, like on the crucifix behind me, a beaten, battered, a man on the cross. And but I just thought that was amazing, because I didn't know that either, that in the first part of after Christ died, no Christians really the
first artwork was,
because it was so looked down upon.
The first artwork, they really replaced Jesus from Zeus. Like, they would put Jesus in place of Zeus. They would make him as if he was a Senate, the head of the Roman Senate, things like that. They made him a very like a royal figure. And it wasn't until they really started pondering the crucifixion that artwork started depicting Christ crucified.
And they started getting further away from the time, of the crucifixions.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, because they were still seeing people crucified at the time of the crucifixion. So it took some time of being removed from that era for them to be able to depict it. Guys, I had such a good time, man. It always thinks that the second half of the show is where it really got going. Like, this is where we're really, you know what? Next time we do it, because we didn't really know what we were going to talk about, I think we should really pick a Christian topic next time when we do this, because that's really what we're doing this for.
Can I have a parting thought before you go? And then
of course, yeah. I still got like 3-4 minutes if you guys want
to. He'll let you go.
The Hebrew name for Jesus is Yeshua. And it's actually the God we worship, his name is Josh. I know that burns a lot of people. You mean I'm worshiping Josh? Yes. Joshua. If you look at the book of Joshua, he ends the Exodus by crossing the Jordan River. Then he goes into the land of Canaan and kills everybody and everything. Even going so far in the 10th chapter of Joshua to, as it says, he took the kings. Thereupon Joshua struck and killed the kings and hanged them on trees, where they remained hanging until the evening. And at sunset, Joshua commanded that they be taken down from the trees and thrown into the cave, where they had hidden over the mouth of the cave. Large stones were placed, and they remain there until this very day. And then the second Yeshua crosses the Jordan River, but instead of killing everybody, he takes all that death and all that destruction on himself, even allowing himself to be hung from the tree. But when he's placed in the cave, he doesn't remain there to this day. So, and there's always those types that Scott Hahn talks about.
Typology is it's what lights up my heart.
Yeah.
Stories of typology and foreshadowing. It lights my heart up. It's like, if people that love the Marvel Cinematic Universe that don't read scripture, you have no idea what you're missing out on. Like, you want to see these stories interconnect and how they all go together. Like, go read the Old Testament and see how Christ fulfilled it.
We fell from grace by eating fruit from a tree. So to be restored, we eat the fruit that hangs on the tree of life. Christ's body.
We have the most amazing faith in the world, man.
Powerful.
It's so amazing.
And that's the thing me and Mark were talking about the other day was, I'd mentioned to Mark that growing up, I had always struggled with this idea of where Jesus said, I came to fulfill, not to destroy, but it seemed like in Protestant Christianity in particular, like there was a cutoff, right? Like, okay, well, Jesus died, everything else before that is null and void. And as I was becoming Catholic, St. Thomas Aquinas talks about there's three types of law. You have your natural law, your moral law, which never changes. You have your judicial and your ceremonial laws, which were, done away with. But those moral laws were never done away with, like the 10 Commandments, so on and so forth. But when I started becoming Catholic and I looked at the typology and I started listening to it, you can easily see there's not that divide. It's a fulfillment of what the Old Testament was. It's just one beautiful story,
seamless story.
And I tell you, the Christian religion is so much more beautiful when you have a Catholic understanding of it. It's not superficial. We have so many great saints that have opened up the depths of this faith that no other Christian denomination can compare. I'm sorry.
See, that's what I really think our channels should focus on, the beauty of all the things that we believe, because it's like there's 100 other channels out there that they could go and get gossip from that are doing the talking head thing, getting into this drama is happening.
Come on next week and let's talk about types. Actually,
we'll do that.
Next
we're doing
week
that on,
but
we're doing the next one on our channel. So that maybe more than.
We just worked out the bugs on this one. We just worked out the bugs.
That's the place to do it.
No, we'll do it on our channel next time, and let's do that. Let's pick a story in the Old Testament
Jason,
and how it was fulfilled.
Yes,
Jason, you spelled it platforms.
What do you do?
Was Mark. That was Mark.
Nope. Platforms.
No, it was not. I'm quick to throw my co-host.
Platforms. I just noticed that.
I keep a
I
bus
thought we wanted to talk about religion and types, and you're
no. Listen, if there's one thing I've taught Rob, it's never let a mistake go by without pointing it out.
I put to Mark all the time. I'm like,
but it's always funny to do it to each other. Like I feel like everybody that goes on air, they're so careful about don't point to the mistake. Don't point to the mistake. And we have really brought pointing to the mistake as like the ideal of our channel. It's like if somebody screws up, bring it up.
I give Mark such a hard time for misspelling sometimes. So it was poetic justice that it happened to me.
He's nice enough to do it off the air, not me.
So next time we're going to be on our platform. And, dude, I love you guys, man. I really do. I know everybody always makes fun of us and says we're going down the Pride Month route, but I really do enjoy hanging with you guys. And thank you so much for inviting me on your channel for a change. And I can't wait to have you guys on mine. You guys close the show out. I really do got to run.
Let's say a quick prayer. In the name of the Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Agimus tibi gratias omnipotens Deus per universus beneficius tuis qui vivis et regnas in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
That was impressive. I could never do that. That was impressive. Thank you guys so much.
All right, God bless, brother.
We'll talk in the chat. We'll text each other after this. Thank you guys.
Are the rest of us hanging out, or are we done?
I'm free.
I mean, we can, or if I
we're an hour and 30. I'm gonna call it.
I definitely want to give Rob a chance here, just for any of our listeners that listen off air that or whatnot. He can, get parting thoughts on what he does and whatnot.
Oh, putting me on the spot, man.
Cut a promo.
Yeah. For those of you, I don't know if Anthony mentioned it while I was off air, but Anthony's sister is looking at vocations, at joining the Passionist nuns, but she has to clear all of her student debt that she was kind of pushed into by the culture, like so many of us are. So Anthony, or his sister, has a fundraiser set up on Gifts and Go to hopefully work at clearing that debt so she can take her vow. So for those of you interested in that, I believe it is giftsandgo.com/send Chrissy to convent, and it's KRISSY.
Okay.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe Mark can add it in the show notes or something here as well.
Definitely. I was at morning mass this morning, and I saw a religious sister in habit. And every time I see one, my heart just explodes because
It's filled with love. Yeah.
we don't see them anymore, and it's so tragic. And everybody, we're always talking about, we have mental health crisis and we have homeless crisis, and and it's like, yeah, who ran all those sanatoriums? Who ran all those boarding schools? Who ran all those orphanages?
Who created hospitals?
Who more than anybody else in the church looked after the most unwanted and unloved people in our societies? And then in the 1960s, we threw them out like they didn't matter. What happened to women religious after the council is one of the most horrible crimes, and
we're still throwing them out.
We're still
kicking them out.
You know, I maybe last year or so, we had some Dominican sisters visit Regina Chaley. They were actually a Vietnamese Dominican sister group.
The Vietnamese kept it real. They keep it real.
And I remember after Mass, my 11-year-old daughter was just talking to them for the longest period of time, and they were talking to her. And I remember thinking, like it just gives you such a good feeling. Even if your daughter doesn't become a sister, it's awesome for her to cultivate that love and relationship for them. You know, and they took some pictures with her and whatnot. But you know, I tell my girls all the time, and my boys too. But since we're talking about sisters, you know, don't just write. I know you want to be a mother, you love babies and all that, and that's a great vocation and whatnot. But don't write off being a sister just because that's what you want. And Mark's grandmother actually gave him some advice that I've started using with them. Mark's grandmother told him, give God the first pick. So Mark went ahead, if you don't mind me sharing, Mark.
No, I don't.
Mark spent a couple years or so in seminary discerning whether he was going to be a priest or not. Decided it wasn't for him, obviously. Now he's married and whatnot. But I told my girls that the other day, I said, give God the first choice. Give it an honest discernment. And if you want to be a mother, but you feel God is calling you to the sisterhood, go with what God is discerning you to do.
Here's what I recommend
give up yourself.
Everybody.
And I was just gonna add, I know my oldest daughter, she's 13. She'll be 14 later this year. Her and a couple other girls around the same age are actually putting together basically a discernment group for girls their age, and they're supposed to get a sister to come in. They're going to meet once a month and talk with the sister and basically have a study with her and whatnot. But we really need to push our young girls and young boys.
I always say do a postulancy. Do a postulancy, right? If at the end of your postulancy you enter the novitiate, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. If you do your novitiate and it's time to profess, and this is not your vocation, you have just spent a year, maybe 2 years, in an environment where you will learn spiritual practices that will carry you through for the rest of your life. And especially right out of high school, you're too young to really appreciate college anyway, I think. Give yourself some time to spend some time out of the house, okay? Learn some self-discipline, learn a prayer life. And I'm telling you, you will 15, 20 years down the road, you will look back at the time you spent in postulancy and possibly even novitiate as some of the best, most formative years of your life. There is no downside, right, to at least doing a postulancy. And I tell everybody that, and I think I still stand by that, because your spiritual directors will guide you through the discernment process. They're not, if you find a good community or a good seminary, they're not going to ordain you if you don't really belong there. Okay. But at the same time, at a young man, 16, 17, or when you graduate from high school, okay, or a young lady at the same age, man, you need to learn some things about how to be an adult Catholic. That I think that's a great environment to do it in. And so that's that.
Amen.
And that's all I got. Yeah, that's our show, everybody.
Yeah, but Rob, do y'all have a trivia show coming up this week, or?
Yeah, I think we're still planning on doing it Thursday, maybe Wednesday. I'll have to check with Anthony. Fridays, just so many people are busy during the summers. Yeah. And so it'd be nice to get a chance to do stuff on Fridays nights too. So I think it's going to be Thursday or maybe Wednesday. We have to figure that out. I think we're tomorrow planning on doing a show with his sister to talk about her discernment. So
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah,
That's
we
awesome.
should check that out. Yeah, so they can catch you at Avoiding Babylon on YouTube, and then of course here I'll throw them up here again. They can catch up. They can catch y'all on Twitter and keep up to date with y'all's workings. But yeah, definitely check out Avoiding Babylon. They do really good work over there, and it's fun. It's a fun way to learn about the faith and fellowship. Yeah,
it's nice just to hang out without thinking about all the crazy stuff going on in the world.
Exactly.
And I was just going to end, Mark, real quick. Me and you are actually putting together an episode tomorrow on Father Emil.
I'm hoping so.
Capon,
my guest has not gotten back to me to confirm yet. So I'm hoping so. I'm going to call him because I've been texting him and he's not responding.
Well,
so
we need him. If anybody's watched the show before, it's Dr. Alex Bilikowski. He's a military historian. He's a professor at a university around here. But yeah, we're going to talk about servant of God, Father Emil Capon, and release it on Father's Day. So anybody that doesn't know about Father Emil Capon, do some research on him. Pray for his I can't say the word. Pray for him to be a saint.
For sure, Anthony. Thanks for coming on, bud.
I forget because beatified is
that's not it.
Blessed. What do they call when they become a venerable?
Canonization. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pray for his canonization. Sorry, guys, I still haven't mastered the English language after 40 years, so excuse me.
But his Latin is. All right, guys, that's all I got. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you all around. God bless.
God bless.